All right, welcome to today's show. So we got Microstrategy soaring up about 10%. We've got leaks from the White House. My friend just sent me over some news on a plan to buy a whole bunch more Bitcoin. We've also got the dollar in a sharp decline, which has been a historically bullish sign for Bitcoin. And we've got some other news coming down the pike, even though Larry Fink is talking about inflation going up and it's not really resonating with him, quote unquote. There's a lot of bullish signs, including the way the market is responding today. So let's jump into it, okay? So first and foremost, this is not financial advice. This is not tax advice. This is not legal advice. In anything that you're doing, do your own research. This is only for informational purposes only, and educational purposes only. So, of course, do your own research whenever you're doing stuff. Flash the disclaimer here real quick. Hope it serves you, okay? So let's jump in and let's take a look at what we got going on here, all right? Got some big headlines in the news. It's obviously good news. We haven't had a lot of great news in a while. So let's start taking a look here. So we've got an article here that shows Bitcoin versus the dollar. And so the DXY is basically the US dollar strength index. And basically what that shows is how strong is the dollar in relationship to other currencies. So you can see the current Bitcoin price. The high has been 85,000 over here to the right. We're about 84,000 right now. And so historically, I'm gonna zoom in here for you. Historically, in the past, you can see right now that the DXY, which is the dollar index, a decrease of over 3.4% within a single week. A rate change that has only been observed 3 times in Bitcoin's entire trading history. So what this is basically saying is the dollar is declining, and historically with Bitcoin, Bitcoin goes up when you have a sharp decline like this. And you can actually see the periods down here where this actually took place. So if you look into 2015 post bear market, I was not even into Bitcoin at this point. I got in Bitcoin in 2018. But if you look at the post bear market bottom, the first occurrence was after Bitcoin price had bottomed out in 2015. Following a period of sideways consolidation, Bitcoin's price then went over 200% within months. So the point is, dollar declines, Bitcoin shoots up 200% in 2015. And then we have COVID, which I remember very well because in 2018, I started buying. In 2020, I started buying even more. The second instance here is early 2020. We had the market collapse because of the pandemic, right? So Bitcoin was chopping, just like it has been recently. And then there was a rapid upward trend after that. And we know what happened in COVID. Bitcoin went parabolic, okay? And then 2022, the bear market recovery. Remember that huge drop that took place in Bitcoin. And then we had this recovery that took place. And so Bitcoin followed, here it says, with a sustained recovery, climbing to substantially higher prices and kicking off the current bull cycle over the following months. So here's the bottom line, all right? In each case, this is the important part. In each case, the sharp decline in the DXY, which basically shows the strength of the US dollar in relation to other currencies, was followed by a consolidation phase, which we're going through right now, before Bitcoin embarked on a significant bullish run, which is great, all right? So that is a good indicator for Bitcoin. So we're looking for good indicators along the way. That is definitely a good indicator if you're just joining us. I'm going over the different bullish signals for Bitcoin right now. It's obviously been a choppy couple of months, but there's some good news coming, right? Another piece of good news, my friend Todd just sent this over to me, which is super cool. And here we have President Donald Trump, okay? All right, there he is. And I'm not laughing in joking. I actually like Trump. So there we have Trump. And then we have Bo Hines, executive director of the Presidential Working Group on Digital Assets, told attendees of a closed-door roundtable hosted by the Bitcoin Policy Institute that the White House plans to buy as much Bitcoin as it can. Crypto news outlet Decrypt. So Decrypt is saying this, and they're citing anonymous sources. A White House official confirmed Hines' comments to Decrypt, adding any such acquisitions would be made in a budget neutral way that doesn't cost the taxpayers a dime. All right, so we've already heard that. That's not new news, but this whole thing about this roundtable is. And the private meeting was reportedly attended by U.S. Senators Cynthia Lummis. Good. Lummis in the game. Bill Haggerty, Bernie Moreno, as well as our beloved strategy founder, Michael Saylor. And then, of course, we had Bitcoin miner, Marathon Digital Chief Executive, Fred Thiel there. And then we had some other people there as well. So cool. And then Lummis, who, you know, if you saw her tweet recently on Bitcoin, she's kind of saying it's for real this time. Her tweet recently on X, I should say, about Bitcoin. Lummis this week introduced legislation that we would see the U.S. buy up to 1 million Bitcoin over 5 years, enshrining into law the strategic Bitcoin reserve created by Trump via executive order earlier this month. So that's good. She's reintroducing legislation, okay? Reintroducing. So we know she introduced this before. Then the reserve came out. Then people were like, what the hell happened? Fear hit, price dropped. Now she's reintroducing the legislation here and the commitment of 1 million Bitcoin over 5 years. Let's see if it happens, okay? So we already know this old news. U.S. currently holds around 200,000 Bitcoin accumulated via civil and criminal forfeitures, all right? So looking good, right? We got some good news coming in here. These are good news, good signs. And, of course, the market's showing it today, whereas in the past, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, the market wasn't showing it. We look at MicroStrategy right now, and I go over to MicroStrategy. We're looking here. Let's pull up MSTR price right now. And we got MicroStrategy sitting at 295, okay? So MicroStrategy sitting at 295, which is higher than it's been in a while, up 12.87% right now. So it's a good day. It's a good day. We haven't had a good day in a while. This is a good day. The gift is on. What's up, the gift? We got Tennis's Physical. Bought the dip on MSTU. Me too. I bought the dip and I traded out as well. So cool. And we got Paul in here. Epic pump soon due to the lag in M2 money supply. Yes. So what else we got here on news? We got, some other news. We got some short positions that were liquidated today. So short positions mean people are betting against Bitcoin. Bitcoin went up. The short positions got liquidated in 4 hours, and $43 million of liquidations took place. All right. Bitcoin climbed as high as 85,000. Let's see if it's what it's at right now. I'll go look over here. BTC. We got Bitcoin sitting right now at $84,000. So we broke over $85,000 today, which when we were sitting at 79,000, that wasn't a very, very happy day. Okay. So we got short positions liquidated in 4 hours. And then the total crypto marketplace of liquidations was about 221 million today, 121 million from short positions, which means that people are betting against crypto and betting against Bitcoin specifically. 43 million liquidated in bets against Bitcoin. 121 million in bets against the crypto market. Liquidated market is going up. So that is news for the videotapes here. So that's exciting. We get some good news there. And we got some more good news. If we look here, just to take a look at the history here, if you look at why Strategy's preferred stock, Strike, is defying MicroStrategy's downturn, Strike is a good ad in the marketplace. If you look at Strike right here in the headlines, it's risen 3% since its February launch. So as you know, Strike is preferred stock. So there's a dividend that's paid out on Strike. It's about 8% a year that's paid out. So you look at the Strike has risen 3%, while MicroStrategy has dropped over 20%. So that's big news, because you look at certain plays that MicroStrategy is making. And to me, if we look at MicroStrategy dropping, but we look at Strike going up, we're taking a look at kind of a little stabilization play here that's taking place, where MicroStrategy is super volatile, but you have other institutions that want to get into Strike, like pension funds and insurance companies, that are looking for more of a stable rate of return. Obviously not financial advice, but Strike is not something for me. I'm not interested in the 8% dividend on this. But for the marketplace, it's extremely good. And for institutional funds rolling into Strike, it's really, really good news. And we obviously just got the announcement of $21 billion that's going to be issued sometime in 2025 and 26 from MicroStrategy. And that is preferred stock. And so that's a really good news because it doesn't dilute us as common shareholders. And we like that. And if you remember, I shared this on my show a couple of days ago. But if you remember back in 2024 and even early 2025, as Saylor was, tapping the ATM and issuing more shares in the marketplace, obviously good for, MicroStrategy stock long term, but people didn't like it to some degree because it was temporarily diluting the shares. It was creating a little bit of fear in the marketplace. It wasn't creating any fear when the stock was zooming up, but when the stock starts zooming down, people get afraid and they look for any reason to say, "Whoa, my God, it's going to dilute the shares." And temporarily it would, and we would see a negative reaction in the price. And so this is a really good stabilization play of preferred stock coming out in the marketplace for strategy. And it's just great news. And so strategy has all these different vehicles that they're using that is creating an opportunity for more investors to get involved. And that's super cool. So as a common stockholder that I am, I obviously want the huge upside, but people who are getting into Strike, they want a more stable return. And the pension companies, the pension funds and the insurance companies that are getting involved, typically they would put their money in something that might get them a 4% rate of return. So if they can get an 8% rate of return from MicroStrategy, that's pretty much guaranteed unless MicroStrategy goes, belly up. If they can get an 8% rate of return, then there's going to be a lot of money that flows into this, and there's a lot of demand for this. And I'm sure Saylor's not going to be issuing, 21 million worth with the idea that there's not a huge demand in this. Obviously, they probably researched the marketplace. They talked to different pension funds. They talked to insurance companies. They took the litmus test of what the market wanted, and they put their strategy forth in 2025 and 2026. So this is all very, very cool news. You can check out this article here if you want to check it out for yourself, but I think it's really good news. You can read more up on it. You can see the graph here. If you look at the STRK graph that's here in almost a reddish maroonish, and you can see the price going up here. And then you look at MicroStrategy, you can see the trend going down. You see obviously a difference in the trend between the two. Okay. So again, here's the headline on it. The large 21 billion ATM issuance could affect Strike's upside potential, similar to its effect on MicroStrategy's common stock. So that's all very, very good news. So that is good news as well. So we got a lot of good news happening with MicroStrategy. We got good news happening with Bitcoin. If you're just joining us, I was talking about the news in the White House, where there's been news that's been leaked. That's new news, not old news. That MicroStrategy, that the White House and Trump and the group that's in charge of our digital asset stockpile and also in charge of the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, that this group is saying that we are going to be buying more Bitcoin. And Senator Lummis is reinforcing this with her tweets and her posts and saying that this is a real thing. So that's good news as well. So we've got some more good news. Let's check it out. More stuff. We've also got, if you look at the graphs here, it's kind of interesting. Those of you who've been following me with MSTU, this is the graph on MSTU, and you can see the trend line here of it going all the way up. So that's a big move. I have some money in MSTU, which is a 2x version of MSTR. The majority of my portfolio is in MSTR, but for a little bit of fun, look at this graph going all the way up, which we need because I put some money in when it was higher recently, and it's now down at 6. But we had a big move from about 4.7 here, as you see, all the way up to 6.04. That's a huge move in a day. That's like a 25% return in a day. So you can see this thing's very volatile, and it moves in a very, very different way than MicroStrategy. It moves in a 2x way. And then if we look at the MicroStrategy graph, we can take a look at this, and we can look at MicroStrategy and see if I have the graph up here. We can take a look. Well, MicroStrategy's graph moves in a very similar way. But there's another article I want to show you because the same group that came out with MSTU, which is it's REX. And so they just released a new fund. It's an ETF on convertible bonds, convertible notes. And the ETF, I had inflows today of about, I can't find the article, but The ETF today had inflows it was a convertible bond fund that's related to companies like MicroStrategy, companies like Mara, companies that are holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And so I think on today's opening, they brought in about $25 million already. So you look at the demand where companies like Rex, they are responsible for MSTU, which is a derivative of MSTR. And they're also responsible for this new convertible bond fund that's coming out that is including as its largest share MicroStrategy, but MicroStrategy convertible notes. And then it's including other companies that are putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet in there as well. So it's showing you that, there is demand for these convertible notes that MicroStrategy is issuing in the marketplace. And so this ETF that's coming out is going to bring a whole nother pool of investors in. And the fact that 25 million aped into that today is a sign that there is demand for this. So all these new products are coming out. That is another product that they're piggybacking on, really on MicroStrategy. MSTU, they're piggybacking on MicroStrategy's returns. This new fund, the convertible bond fund that they came out with recently today that they released, that's piggybacking on MicroStrategy's convertible note portfolio. And so obviously there's products that are coming out in relation to MicroStrategy. And then you have STRK, which is MicroStrategy's product that they just released. And you got a whole suite of products, which means more and more money flowing into MicroStrategy, and the market's going to get hotter. So those are good indicators. So that's what's happening in the marketplace today, which is pretty cool. We've got some Paul Parker's here. What is MSTU? He's asking. Paul, MSTU is a 2x version of MicroStrategy. So it's a company. Let me see if I can pull the article and show this to you real quick. So I was reading this today, and it's pretty interesting. Let me see if I can find it for you. Oh, here's another good news, right? So DOGE to BTC, proposal to invest U.S. savings in Bitcoin floated, okay? So this is a potential, right? Potential savings of the Department of Government Efficiency, helmed by Elon Musk, could be used to purchase Bitcoin, setting the basis for establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve in the U.S. So who knows? It's apparent, or what Elon Musk has claimed and said is that there's already been 55 billion for the country that has been saved for the country. So I don't know if they determine that this is a budget neutral strategy for acquiring Bitcoin, but per this headline, it looks like this is a budget neutral strategy. They're saving money. And the idea is that a part of the money that's being saved, 20% of the savings, goes back to the American people in the form of a DOGE dividend. Other proposals, including Bitcoin, have already been floated. Okay. So some of these funds could be used to acquire Bitcoin. So that's more news. All right. Obviously, fact check all of this, take it with a grain of salt, but the headlines are more bullish today in the news than they have been. Of course, when the market goes up, it's easy to have bullish headlines, right? But it's good news. We'll take the win for the day on this one. And now I want to find the article, because Paul was asking about MSTU, but I do want to find the article here on the issuance of this convertible note that was issued today. Let me see if I can find it here. So Rex Shares has launched a first of its kind convertible bonds exchange traded fund, allowing investors exposure to the convertible debt issued by corporates to add Bitcoin to their balance sheet, right? So we zoom in on this. So Rex is the same group that's behind MSTU, which is a 2x version of MicroStrategy. And this convertible bond ETF is what it's called, allowing investors exposure to the convertible debt issued by corporates to add Bitcoin to their balance sheet. So what that basically means is you've got companies like MicroStrategy that are issuing debt to add Bitcoin to their balance sheet. So we know this has been going on for a long time for MicroStrategy, 2024, 2025, and even before that. And then other companies have been following the playbook where they're issuing debt to add Bitcoin to their balance sheet. So basically, they're going out, they're getting loans, and with those loans, they're going to buy Bitcoin. So Rex, Bitcoin Corporate Treasury Convertible Bond ETF. So that's what it's called. And the sign on this is BMAX right here. And so what it tells you here is they created a fund. So like we go and we buy MicroStrategy, or I should say I go and I buy it. I don't want to represent anybody. And when I buy MicroStrategy, I'm betting on MicroStrategy's strategy. I should say I'm betting on Strategy's strategy to issue shares and buy Bitcoin, and also issue debt and buy Bitcoin. And so that's what we're betting on. And that's why MicroStrategy trades at a premium. So if you're wondering why MicroStrategy goes up more than Bitcoin, is because of the strategy that they actually deploy. All right. And so we like the premium of MicroStrategy, because when we invest in MicroStrategy, or when I invest in MicroStrategy, it outperforms my Bitcoin significantly. Okay. When it goes down, it also goes down significantly more than Bitcoin. So this group Rex, which took advantage of the volatility of MicroStrategy earlier in 2024, and they created a fund called MSTU. In creating MSTU, the game plan was to get the upside volatility of MicroStrategy times 2. And so if you invest in Bitcoin, you got a certain amount of volatility. If you might invest in MicroStrategy, you got even more volatility. And if you invest in MSTU, you got 2x the volatility of MicroStrategy. And so it became very popular, and billions and billions and billions of dollars poured into MSTU. And the idea on this fund is that people wanted to get a significant upside. So if you go back into around October, MSTU was trading around what it was trading at now. In fact, lower. But today, this morning, when it was at 4.7, that's about what it was trading at around October. So we went all the way up from about 4.5 in October with MSTU, all the way up to 30. It went up almost a 6x, over a 6x. So it was a 6x return at that time, and then it went down 6x. Now, the problem with these funds is there's huge volatility, and so you could go all the way up and you could go all the way down, and you could get liquidated, because if you had a big move in a day, let's say if MicroStrategy dropped 50% in a day, your entire portfolio could get liquidated in MSTU. So they're very, very risky, and you hear people talk about MSTU and the decay that takes place over time in these funds that are 2x, right? So holding them for shorter periods of time is what I like to do, but I'm also, I have some positions in this, some heavy positions in it, because I know where we're going, right? Not financial advice, not tax advice, not legal advice. All of that story brings us to this scenario of the same company, Rex, right here, creates this new ETF called BMAX, which got released today. And so now what they're doing is they're still taking advantage. It's like they're riding the MicroStrategy playbook, and they're making money off MicroStrategy. And what they're doing is they're saying we're going to create a fund of convertible bonds, right? So just like MicroStrategy issues convertible bonds, the fund is mostly made up, and of course they issue those bonds to buy Bitcoin. So the fund is mostly made up of convertible paper issued by Michael Saylor's strategy, right? So this fund is mostly made up of MicroStrategy. I call them MicroStrategy, but I know their strategy. But it's made up of MicroStrategy's convertible bonds. They're issuing paper, and that's what it's made up of, the great majority of it, because they are the largest issuer of such debt, right? But then there's many other companies that have followed the MicroStrategy playbook. So you have other top 10 holdings that include the convertible notes of Bitcoin miners Marathon and Riot platforms as well. So the main thing here is it says, until now, these bonds have been difficult for individual investors to reach. So BMAX removes those barriers, making it easier to invest in strategy pioneered by Michael Saylor. leveraging corporate debt to acquire Bitcoin as a treasury asset. And then you see here, the fund was seeded with 25 million in assets today. Now you can see that there's high fund expenses here, but heck, man, I'll pay 0.85% all day long or whatever if I'm going to get a 2x on MicroStrategy. Not in this fund, but other funds like MSTU that the company Rex here, other funds that they've issued and put together like MSTU has fees in it as well. And so this that they created called BMAX, which is based on MicroStrategy issuing debt and buying Bitcoin, and also the other top 10 holdings behind MicroStrategy that are following their playbook and issuing debt and buying Bitcoin. Now there's a fund where people can get access to these types of bonds, and which is cool. So you see all this innovation coming out as a result. And so there's more and more demand for MicroStrategy because there's more ways for income to fly into MicroStrategy. Make sense? So this is cool. This is good news. It's super good news. So we're seeing different financial products coming out in the marketplace that's showing that MicroStrategy is catching wind. And when you see these different products coming out in the marketplace, like STRK, the preferred stock for MicroStrategy, and you see that their main strategy moving forward this year is the 21 billion. That is big news because we have other types of money that are flowing into strategy as a result of this. And then when you see funds like Rex that they just issued, that's highly dependent on convertible notes with these other top 10 companies that are deploying the same strategy as MicroStrategy with their convertible notes. When you see these types of things happening in the marketplace, you know that there's lots of money pouring into MicroStrategy directly and also indirectly as a result of these funds. So that's good, bullish news for MicroStrategy. So all in all, just a recap of today so far of what we've covered. Number one, the dollar is declining right now. And so what I shared earlier is that because of the sharp decline of the dollar, down by 3.4% this week, historically, during the trading period of Bitcoin over its lifespan, since it's been in existence, when we've had sharp declines in the dollar, falling after that, we've had big runs up in Bitcoin. And that happened in 2015, and it also happened in 2020, and it happened in 2022. So we're now having this decline in the dollar, 3.4%. And so now hopefully we will see a run up in Bitcoin, which would be good for MicroStrategy. So that's number one. Number two, we talked about the talks that are taking place at the White House, recent talks that apparently there were leaks about those talks that's reaffirming the U.S.'s plan to buy more Bitcoin, not just the 200,000 that they put in the strategic reserve, but additional plans to buy more Bitcoin. This is now being reinforced by Senator Lummis, not her old posts about this, but it's now being reinforced by Senator Lummis, and she's reinforcing the plan of 200,000, 200,000, 200,000, 200,000, a million Bitcoin, right? Will they do it? We'll see. But they're reinforcing their game plan to actually do this. So this is bullish news as well, okay? Larry Fink, in an article I was reading, was talking about that he thinks inflation might go up, but that's, would be not necessarily the best news, but this is what Larry Fink is saying. And so that's a little piece of the article that was in there that I was reading earlier. But back to the bullish news, right? Then we have another fund or ETF that's been created that I just talked about by Rex. And it's a fund that's based on convertible notes in relation to companies like MicroStrategy and other Bitcoin mining companies that are employing or deploying, I should say, the MicroStrategy playbook. So that is also additional good news. All right. We also know that there were shorts that were liquidated in the marketplace today as well. $43 billion of shorts for Bitcoin that have been liquidated, meaning people betting against Bitcoin and now Bitcoin going up, and $221 million worth of liquidation in the actual marketplace of crypto today, 121 million of those being shorts. Okay. So there's lots of good things that are happening. If you look at the fear and greed index, if we want to take a look at that, it's only at 27. So fear and greed is very low. and as it should be, because you have one good day today, and we've had a month and a half where we've been getting our asses kicked. Let's face it, right? But we have bullish signs and bullish indicators, and it's important to look at the indicators. As I said a couple days ago, even when we were getting our asses kicked, it's important to look at the long-term indicators and zoom out. Okay. And it's also important to look at the history of MicroStrategy, the history of Bitcoin, and we've had chops like this before. And the fact that the S&P 500 is down 10% is not alarming. We've had many drops of the S&P throughout Bitcoin bull runs before. We've had corrections with the S&P when it's dropped as low as dropped 20%, and that would be more a signification of a bear market. But the S&P is only down 10% and has had some recovery today. So we're in good shape. Not as good as we want to be, because obviously 297 of MicroStrategy is nowhere near the top of 550 or 560 of where MicroStrategy was just a few short months ago. But we also know this is how the stock moves, and this is what I signed up for, is this type of volatility. And then somebody was asking before, which is Paul. He's like, "What is MSTU?" MSTU is a 2x version of MicroStrategy created by this company called Rex that just came out with this new fund. That's not based on 2x of MicroStrategy, but it's based on a more conservative portfolio based on the convertible notes that are being issued by companies like MicroStrategy, including MicroStrategy. So that's what we got on the scoreboard today. It's pretty exciting. Somebody saying yes, but MSU will make back those gains faster as MicroStrategy climbs. That's Max saying that. That's absolutely 100%. And listen, I would never tell anybody to invest in MSU. I invest in it. Me and my buddy invest in it. We love it. It's exciting, man. You can see your portfolio move up. Where can you see that? Portfolio goes up 25% in a day. Now, when it dropped 50% the other day, or 60% over the last couple of weeks, that was not fun. But still, we didn't sell, and I didn't sell. And so I'm in it for that. My play, just so you know, on MicroStrategy and MSTU, I can give you what my play is. This is my financial future and what I'm doing. This has nothing to do with you. But I have watched MicroStrategy do this before, okay? Because I bought my first shares in 2020, didn't keep them, but I bought my next shares in 2024 in February. So I bought them low in MicroStrategy in 2024. And so this has been the way the stock moves. This chop period if you own MicroStrategy in early 2024, you didn't just see this once, you saw this a couple of times. Okay. And so I always zoom out and I look at my experience of being in this asset. And I also look at my experience of being in Bitcoin since 2018. And I zoom out and I take a broader view so as not to get caught up in the FOMO and the fear of what most people can get caught up in when the bad news comes out. All right. And I have not changed my tune, even with the drops taking place, because I've seen this before. And I do not think that the White House and Trump are going to allow Bitcoin to fail this year. I don't. You just don't say that you're going to be the crypto capital of the world and mess it up. You would be messing up your entire reputation in your presidency. I just don't see it happening. So I'm operating on that he's done what he says he's going to do. And I'm operating on the continuous bullish news that continues to come out from the White House and from this group that's been assembled to put together the reserve. So I'm continuing to look at that, and they're continuing to come out with good news, right? And even though the market's dipped recently upon the issuance of the strategic Bitcoin reserve, so what, right? That is a good indicator and good news. And the reaffirmation of Senator Lummis, the reaffirmation of this roundtable that got together that Saylor was a part of and the rest of the group were part of, these are good signs, really good signs. So you got to zoom out and take a look at it. And this isn't the first time that MicroStrategy's dropped 50%. The drop from 320 to 226 was almost a nothing drop from my viewpoint, because I remember when we were at 560 and then we dropped down to 300. That's a big drop, So the drops in the last, 3 weeks to a month or 5 weeks or whatever, they're drops. But this is how the stock moves. So I zoom out, I look at the periods in 2024. It's the way I stably operate on it so I don't get freaked out. I remember when MicroStrategy zoomed up to 2000. I've said this many times on this show before, but I'm saying it again just to reinforce if anybody's afraid or they're thinking, oh my God, we're so far down and we're never going to recover. I mean, MicroStrategy zoomed up all the way up to 2000 before the stock split. And then it zoomed down to 1100. It's a 50% drop almost. Actually zoomed down to 1000, 50% drop. Right? And then it zoomed back up again and the stock split. Right? And then it zoomed up to 580 and then it zoomed back down. This is how the stock moves. Right? This is, MicroStrategy is not crypto, but essentially it is because they own Bitcoin. So it's crypto, even though it's a stock, right? Essentially it's crypto, right? So this is how it moves. And this is what I'm signed up for. So I'm excited about the news today. I'm going to take the win on today. If we look at, I wonder where the price is right now. Did we break 300 yet today? 296 right now. I wonder what the high was today. What was the high? Where were we at the height today? We have not hit the 300 mark. It'd be really nice to hit the 300 mark. But what a move. What a move, right? So that's the basic news of what's happened today. I'm going to take a look if I've left anything out here. I don't think I've left anything out. The other thing I was sharing just to cite the source on it about the S&P 500 correction. S&P 500 enters correction territory. What does this mean for Bitcoin? Historical analysis on S&P 500 and Bitcoin corrections. And we've had, if you look at the S&P, we've had past corrections in 2009, 2019, 2020, 2022, which were 20% corrections. Okay. We know that Bitcoin's fallen 30% from its peak. We do know that already. And so the S&P 500 has entered correction territory, defined as a 10% decline from its all-time high. A further 10% drop would signal a bear market, but we haven't had that drop, and we have had an uptick today. So the indicators are good right now. Okay. And then in 2008, if you want to look historically, we had a huge plunge where with the whole global financial crisis, with the whole mortgage thing that went nuts, and the index plunged nearly 60%. So we have that. And the S&P declined 20%. Bitcoin fell as much as 85% in 2019. So in 2008, the index went down 60%. In 2019, with the Bitcoin's bear market, the S&P 500 declined 20%. Bitcoin fell as much as 85%. So there's been some times, March 2020, the index dropped 40% and Bitcoin lost 60% of its value then. So, we've had some corrections, and again, these are down times and downturns that I don't think it is a time right now to be alarmed. I think ears should be open. I should be open looking for news. But I don't think it's a time to be alarmed to say that we're going to a point where we're going to go to a bear market. I just don't. And I continue to maintain that position, and I'll maintain that until I see signs that I think are otherwise. And so I feel bullish about 2025, and I'm excited. So it's good to see everybody here. We have Dark Energy Solutions saying gold went over 3,000 briefly today. Yeah, there you go. Sure did. Got Paul Parker in the house. Dark Energy says Bitcoin and S&P are positively correlated. It's good to see you. We got the gift says December 31st, MicroStrategy was at 290 and MSTR was at $7.50. That's right. It was. So very, very good point there. And then we had the huge run up. So good stat there, the gift, because MicroStrategy was at 290 at that time. And then it went all the way up and it almost did a double from December 31st. So bullish signs, we could say, or I should say it went up to 5 something at a different date than that. So correction on that. Bullish signs, at least for a day, we got them. Long-term bullish signs, I would say absolutely yes. Okay. All right, I hope this served you. And if you have anything you want to leave in the comments, go ahead. I'm happy to get back to your questions. But I'm excited about the future and excited about the news. I'll see you guys on the other side. Stay well.